Good morning. I'm Kim Craven. I will call the meeting of the Finance Subcommittee of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee to order at 8:03 on February 25th, 2026. If we could do a roll call of the members present. Michael Bossier.
Here.
Lisa Martin.
Here.
Ian Francois.
Here.
And I'm Kim Craven, and I am here. And from the administration, we have an Ivy, Brad Morgan, Nancy Haynes, Jeremy Hammond, and is Kevin on? Not seeing him. Okay.
Can't see him.
All right. And do we have someone that would like to make a motion on the minutes from our last meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Lisa Martin?
Yes.
Michael Bossier?
Yes.
Ian Francois?
Yes.
And I'm Kim Craven, and I am also a yes. Was there anyone for public comment, Robin, either?
Let me check again, but there wasn't when I checked earlier this morning.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Okay. So I'd like to open it up. Nancy, I saw that you had in the packet a budget review for us for FY26 as of February 5th. And I noted that you did add in the transfers. Did you want to give an overview on that for us?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
I think I was thinking I have updated that since the February date, but I just wanted to maybe share my screen with the FY26 as to where we are. And at the moment, I'm thinking we hold on doing any of the transfers, and I'll kind of show you why that is at this point.
Okay. Is there one very specific reason, or is it a lot of smaller reasons, the changes?
No, I mean, right now, I had moved a fair amount of money into the tuitions area of the budget, the last section, because we had the assessments for school choice and charter school. And it was almost $300,000 that I moved into that area to cover those. And at the moment, because the tuitions are lower than we anticipated, I don't think I'm going to need to have that much in there. So I still have a balance in that section of the budget. So again, I'm happy to point it out if anyone wants me to do that, or if you want to just keep moving, I can just, if that's enough explanation, we can keep moving.
I did want to know the biggest changes. I'd like to know what the rest of the committee wants, but I'm interested in reviewing what you have that's different than us. And if when you have a moment, you could drop that over to Robin to share with us, that would be great.
Sure.
I do think if you put it up on the screen, Nancy, and just go over it.
Yeah, it will be quick.
It's important. You don't have to rush.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the top level, basically, of all the categories. You guys have seen this in the packet in the past. But the areas that I'm watching there's a couple of areas actually that if you look under the remaining balance column, which is right over here, this is right now, given all that I know, what I think we're going to end the year with. The transfers needed represent what's necessary based on what I've transferred so far. But if you take a look at here, this $297,000, which is what I was talking about for the assessments, we transferred in $297,000 into this to try to support those charter and school choice, but we still have a remaining balance of $980,000 there. So I really don't need that transfer yet. If this were, say, zero, I would need to have it covered by this. So I'm just watching that area. I do have some deficits, which you can see here, operations and maintenance. And again, I have it showing a deficit, but I'm still expecting they're going to spend money. This anticipated expenditures is my best guess as to how much more I think they're going to spend. So they haven't spent it yet, so we're not technically overdrawn, but from a projection standpoint, that's what I'm looking at right now. And the biggest of those right now will be the heat for around 60,000. The electric is and the wastewater, the water and the waste removal is around 72,000. We're running over on the grounds area of facilities, and that makes sense because of the snow removal costs have gone up this year. So again, I don't have final numbers, and I'm kind of thinking we keep an eye on these transfers that are needed, because at the moment, even though it says I need them, I think I'm going to actually need to move some of this money that we transferred here back up to operations and maintenance to cover some of those shortfalls. On a positive note, I did run the activity for the heat and electric, and there are some schools that are higher than we anticipated. Again, this is only through January bills. And then there are actually some of them that are lower, which surprised me. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit. But looking at the individual schools' utilities, I think will help solidify that going forward. But at the moment, this is where it is, and I just wanted to share it quickly.
So that's about 300, as you say, in the positive from the 1.6 remaining balance that you had projected with ours. And that's where the difference is just that one category, essentially. You mean like in this number here? Yeah.
This is like I said, if we spend what I'm expecting we're going to spend between now and the end of the year, we'd still have this left over.
Okay.
Now, of course, but it's only partway through the year here still, but we'll keep eyes on that for sure. And that's assuming that I'm 100% spending some of the areas where the department heads have budget money still available. So I would assume that those things will still come through in the next few months. But again, I think holding off for the moment on a transfer makes sense, just to see where this next February utility bills and such.
Any questions from other members?
No, looks good to me. As long as we're not imminently about to run out of money in any of those areas, I think it makes sense to just keep going and see where the transfer, have as much information as you can have before you actually make the transfers.
Yes, thank you.
Otherwise you're going to be shuffling back and forth or whatever.
Just curious, I think I saw there in the instructional category, the positive in unspent, like that we're going to leave, that we're going to have as part of that 1.9, I should say. I think it was classroom teachers had a positive balance of almost $800,000. Is that just overshooting or during the budget process or?
I think the biggest changes this year have been because of all the shifts of staffing, because of the adjustment. Again, there was more savings from the consolidation of buildings. There was also transition. There's been a number of transition of staff. So when that happens, you end up potentially getting somebody exiting at a higher rate and somebody coming in at a lower rate. So again, there was a lot of estimates going into this year, probably the most estimating we've had to do over the years, because typically we roll our staff and it just rolls in automatically with a new rate, and there you have it. But in this case, there's just a tremendous amount of change that happened this year that I think resulted in that.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw Kevin Cormier is in the attendees list.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm sorry, I was looking for a file in my Google Drive and I completely lost track of time.
Is that my fault, Kevin? I think I asked you.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Okay, that's all right. Sorry, I sent you on a goose chase first thing.
Lisa or Mike, do you have any questions about the FY26?
Nope.
Not at this time.
Um, I have a question about this year's budget in relation to next year's budget. So I was pleased when I saw your projections leaving 1.6. I wasn't sure that it would be that number. Just kind of looking at it on my own, trying to do some of it. With that, just a reminder, if you could send it over in Excel to us rather than just the PDF. It's harder to navigate when I'm looking at some of the numbers. If that's possible, it just helps me compare some of the things and condense some of the rows for analysis. So given that it is still a bit for the year to go and we have snow coming down, I know that's going to affect the operations. I expect that request to be greater than what you're showing. I just think it's natural that with what's going on. And I did see, I had to go check a building myself later in the storm, and I saw the crew out there, Spalding. I know everyone's working really hard to keep the grounds clear of the snow, and that does cost some money. But I feel that there's some of a buffer. Is there anything in that FY27 budget that's been deferred, whether it be curriculum materials or technology materials that Jeremy needs or whatever it might be, that could be purchased the 2026 budget rather than the 27 budget?
Yeah, I think we could definitely look at that. Another alternative would be, so that would be one option as far as, having help with the FY27 budget. The other option might be to consider the fact that if that closes out to E&D, that we know that amount will be in E&D. So in theory, if we're replacing E&D with what we're spending, we could potentially increase that. But again, I think that's a possibility, I guess is what I'm saying. It's just another way to handle it without it being, pushing all this, say, equipment purchase I'm pretty sure if you ask Jeremy if he could come up with some things that he plans for next year and this year, I'm 100% sure he could say yes to that. So either way could work if it's easier to do it that way versus, say, talking about, our 2 million in E&D that we're planning on using and making that either a little higher or shuffling a little bit for next year, some of those numbers, so that we could end up with a lower assessment for the towns.
I had appreciated a chart that you had given us earlier where it had the total amount for each town and then where you were at. And I know it had been around 400 to get to the exact ask that the municipalities had put forward. So I'm not exactly sure where that number is right now. If you know that would be helpful.
Sure. I'm pretty sure based on what Pepperell is looking at, I think they're looking at trying to get to a 3 from their newest letter that came through or thereabouts. And they're at hold on. I just don't want to. Just want to give you they're currently at 4.33%. And I think they would prefer to be at a 3. That's about $500,000 in either reductions or savings of or additional revenue. So it's either an adjustment in the expenditure side or the revenue side, but either way, it's usually when you're trying to get there, you can get there either way to try to get them to a 3. That's about the number.
So we've probably delved more into the FY27 budget now, but if I could leave the FY26 budget, if my peers don't have any other questions, with that ask of a review of any deferred purchases that they be considered within the FY26 budget in the appropriate categories, to take them out of the FY27. And if nobody has any other questions, we can fully move into that FY27 into that way anyhow.
Yeah, that's okay with me. I guess this is a 27 question now, but I think I'm looking at the letter right now and it says, quote, with this in mind, we are hoping that NMRSD can continue to consider our need to keep the assessment to PEPL in line with our revenue growth. Currently, that is projected at 2.89%. So maybe I'm just interpreting this poorly. That sounds like to me that they're trying to get us to 2.89 as opposed to 3. But I mean, it says 3 in the next sentence.
Yeah, we've been asking the district to keep it to a maximum of 3. So I think what they're saying is they can shoulder a little bit more than their projected revenue growth, but only a tiny bit.
Well, I guess translation, it'd be somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000.
Yeah, 500,000 and 600,000 less than the current draft budget, is what you're saying? Or is that
yes, or if we had revenue coming in, additional revenue coming in, then we could some in the expenditure and some in the revenue, or also consider use of E&D as an example.
You have
the current draft budget. How much E&D was it set to use for revenue? I can't remember.
2 million.
2 million. Okay. Out of how much? How much is in there?
Around 3.5 million.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Did you have handy the revenue that you can bring up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. Or is that visible for people?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think too much has changed with these upper categories since the governor's proposal, but we did get one minor change to the minimum local contribution due to a transfer of a student between Monty Tech and North Middlesex. So there's a slight one student change to these numbers here. And the local revenues right now are right here. Would be the assessments for the towns would be these numbers, and then the debt service down here.
So on your calculation, sorry.
This is a revised budget since the public hearing of 2.95%. So the public hearing was 3.06. So this includes some minor changes. I don't know, Brad, if you want to explain that right now, or do you want me to keep going?
Keep going for now.
So we are still waiting for the GIC to be voted, but their number is significantly lower, which is good, really good news. And so is the health insurance line appears like it's going to come in essentially level funded, minus for the rates, minus, we're assuming there'll be some larger impact on people transferring into our plan. So we've included all those changes. In addition, this includes adding back in with some of the savings, the middle school teachers, two at each building, so that they can, so that they can they can move back to the team model.
So it might not be possible, but in your formula, is there a way to easily, in quotes, reduce the ask from 2.95, what it looks like if it's like 2.75? Sort of reverse engineering it. It might not be that easy to do.
Mhm.
No, it's fairly straightforward. I can't do it in this
Okay.
this particular one, but I can do it. And are you looking to see like what that does for the Towns and Pepperell Ashby numbers?
Yes, and to talk through what that means. So, Mike asked a great question, like what are we using in E&D? What's going to be left in E&D? Balancing that with what you're projecting to be less. And at the time that I was thinking through this conversation in preparation for this meeting, I was looking at 1.6, feeling like if we could get 1.3 for the remaining balances, that I was comfortable with that. And obviously it's an unknown, but feeling a little bit comfortable that we're leaving some in E&D, that we will have some projected cushion for FY26, and knowing how much advocacy is going on, that there's that hope that there'll be a return on some of those efforts with the eventual change of the formula, so that we are not in this position next year, or at least the year after, to be able to balance the needs of all the municipalities. I'm encouraged to hear that you're bringing some of the teachers back. Keenan made a good point. There's some money left. Is there enough money left even in the budget to hire a para for one of the classrooms, or whatever it is, operations wise, that would alleviate some of the highest ratios, whatever relief there might be, and still leave you in a good position. So it sounds like we're talking somewhere around 600, that if there's a benefit to the schools this year, and a benefit to the budget next year, what does that look like? And from an operations standpoint, how are you feeling, superintendent and finance team, of where that looked like last year and the year prior? And is that feeling better for you than it was last year? Is that a comfortable spot? Like talk it out with us, because I know last year I had no time to talk to you before I tried to push your budget down to match the towns.
So, I think we can certainly consider using, I would recommend maybe another 250,000 out of E&D in that range. And then that would leave us again with a balance of, 1.25 in that range, going into the next year. And then potentially look at a combination of some other reductions in what we're proposing right now, that in just doing some quick math, and I apologize for being quiet there for a minute. I was just putting some numbers together. And I'm coming up with the potential, without looking at insurance at all, because I do think we have to be cautious of the insurance piece, because even though, as I've shared before, the GIC has not gone up as we thought it would, they have gone up on the members. So they haven't increased the percentage cost, but everything else has gone up as part of their membership in that plan. So that's going to be noticed, I would think, by the people that are carrying GIC elsewhere. So I am still a little concerned about a potential swing to our insurance plan. And I do think we have to keep some money set aside to absorb that, should that happen. Outside of that, if we use another 250,000, I can talk to Nancy, Kevin, Gary about potentially reducing our staffing ask by 170,000 to staff. We have asked the special education department to do a staffing audit, and it does look like we're going to see some potential flexibility there to move at least a couple of special education teachers into general education positions. And a lot of that has to do with, again, making sure that we're in compliance. We're servicing students appropriately, but not over-servicing, because that can get us into some trouble as well. But then also with the shift of the STEPS program to Townsend, we've just realized that there are some adjustments that can be made. So all in all, if we were to use another $250K and then make a staffing reduction in the proposed budget, which again I think can be covered by the special ed savings that we're seeing, we're going to look at probably a $420,000 swing. It doesn't get Pepperell exactly to the $500,000 or $600,000 that would put them in a position, I think, to support the budget. But the possibility is that maybe the insurance isn't going to swing the way that it could, and maybe we see some additional savings there, and that we don't see a large shift in membership to the district plan. Does that make sense? The only other concern, I don't mean to interrupt, sorry, Kim, is that we're going to go further and further away from our reserve, our recommended, or our reserves policy, because we're actually using now well over half of the funds. Before, it was 200 out of, 2 million out of 3.5. Now it would be, 2.25. In reducing the amount in E&D for the next year, and potentially putting us at risk for what we're going to get the next year.
Now, Lisa, I see your hand up.
Could we go halfway with the towns? I know that they want us to go to the 500, 600,000, but could we do 300,000, because we can always lower when numbers come in. And like you said, use 250 out of E&D, and could we drop 50,000 from stabilization? I know we've dropped from stabilization. I know we don't want to do that, but at least maybe keep a teacher or a pair or two.
So I think the only concern that I would have with, giving Pepperell, with meeting Pepperell halfway, is that it's putting us deeper and deeper into the spring and potentially into the summer without having an answer on whether or not our budget can be supported. I think we're in a spot now where Ashby is, and any reduction at this point is going to create a situation for Ashby where their increase is almost at zero. Townsend is still a question mark. We are being asked to lower our budget for Townsend as well, even though their assessment is quite low, and it is below, I know, at the last meeting, and I have shared this with the select board member that spoke at the last meeting. Even though that letter was sent, that letter has not been referenced really at all in any of our budget summits. It's been getting the towns below 3% for the assessment. That's been the goal in all of our discussions. Really nothing more than that. And we've done that for 2 towns at this point. My concern with Pepperell is that, again, we only need 2 towns, but you don't want to put a town in a position where they're going to, have to cut additional services and set them up for an even more difficult FY28. So I do think that we should be trying to do everything we possibly can to try to get as close to that number as we can without carrying forward the issues that existed this year in our K classes and our 7-8 classes with very, very large class sizes. And I do think that we're in a position now after that special education audit and, having a couple of positions being added to the FY27 budget, that we should be able to address those concerns. Are we going to have everything that we want? No. Would we love to add a split team at both middle schools? Yes, we would. But I don't think that that's in the cards, because that would only increase our budget at this point. But I do think we have a potential situation where we can address those problem areas where class sizes are in excess of 25. And, hopefully try to maintain 25 or below district-wide, with the exception of some high school electives, which are always going to be problematic, because the only way to address those are by hiring fractions of staff, which really don't exist.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, what I'm hearing is that if we move some staff around with the special education audit that you mentioned, and then we're adding in some staff to address the class size issues, which I think is a fantastic idea, because my son's in 7th grade, so he has experienced those high class sizes, and it's not been ideal, to put it mildly.
Right.
And so and I think that by using a little bit more of the E&D, like, yes, that's not ideal either. We specifically don't want to do that. Although we did, I believe we voted to to suspend that particular policy for this coming fiscal year, specifically because we knew we continued to have these challenges regarding the budget, and specifically the town assessments, and even more specifically the pepperell assessment. But I think that using a bit more E&D plus the staffing adjustments that you were talking about, that gets us most of the way there, to what pepperell is asking. It sounds like not all the way there, but a lot closer. And I think that making those adjustments makes sense. And that, obviously that doesn't get us to a final point yet, but I think it gets us a lot closer and shows progress in the right direction, which is always a good thing.
Right. No. And again, and there may be the opportunity to look at FY26, in the coming month or two, to see if we can potentially prepay for certain things in FY27, and take that 420 number I threw out there and potentially increase it. Mm-hmm. I will say that right now, my confidence level in all of this is, I would say 50%, only because I have not shared this with the business office at this point, because they were not a part of the meeting with special education. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. As you know, we rely heavily on their ability to take our numbers and make them a reality. So those discussions will happen later this week. But I do think that it does make sense to me. I'm hoping it will make sense to Nancy and Kevin. And again, I do want to just be sure that everyone knows the audit that was done was an internal audit that was done by the special education director and the assistant director. So that was a deep dive into how special education teachers, both inclusion and program teachers, were being used. But then on top of that, how paraprofessionals are being used throughout the district. Is there equity in how they're being used programmatically? And then on top of that, the real hope that bringing a NEC program and a landmark program to the district will help support our budget, our special education budget, namely moving forward, and could help with revenue down the road. But it's going to take a couple of years probably to get those up and running until we really start to reap some revenue from both of those programs.
I appreciate that sort of lens that you're looking at. Keenan, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just shot back over to the preliminary budget message just to see if I could get clarification on something. Um, the FY26 capital plan list, obviously though there's a number of items in there like elevators, AV upgrades, building and grounds equipment, blah 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 blah. Um, how much of that was included in the FY27 budget? Like how much do we have budgeted for that in 27, if any of it? Because I was just thinking ahead about if we can prepay out of 26, where does that land us? I don't know if you guys have that information at your hands. Um,
So
like I'm
you're,
just kind of run some quick maths in my head.
yeah. So are you asking about the plant facilities budget mainly? Like what's planned
uh,
for in 27?
like anything that has substantial one-time purchases coming up. So I guess a lot of that would be facilities.
Um, I would say the bulk of those one-time costs would be either our transfers, which well, they're not one time, but they're not supporting operations, like the stabilization transfer and other post-employment transfer. But the capital lines that are in the budget, we increased slightly for this FY27. Those are when for whatever capital projects we want to tackle across the buildings. So that's I think at the moment to try to move up any of those costs right now would be challenging. I don't know if Jeremy has a comment on that, but we have a lot of capital projects in front of us right now. And, given this winter, it's been challenging getting those up and running and bid out at this point. So I know they're in process, but I don't know if we could add more to them before June.
So is it
Jeremy,
basically that
if you have if Jeremy has any one-time cost in his, he could maybe speak to that. But I suspect his are replacement cycles mostly. So like projector replacements and Chromebook replacements and that type of thing.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I constantly look at what we can move forward if I have any funds available. That's just part of my process. And part of my budgeting for the technology lines includes refreshes and planning that out with the goal of having my ask be as stable from one year to another. So it's not a sudden increase because this year we're replacing desktops. I try to spread it out so it's as stable of a request as I can. From the capital planning standpoint, we're certainly going to continue to look at it. Quite frankly, we're running into issues with staffing and manpower to take on too many more capital projects. We have a lot that needs to be done, but we're just spread kind of thin. And there's a lot involved on the district side for every capital project. I know it's often looked at as being something that involves contractors and therefore shouldn't be as much of a staffing issue. But it is a long process to go through the bids, getting the quotes, evaluating everything, and then it takes a good portion of manpower, particularly from Dave, myself, and the foreman and some of the tech staff, to kind of project manage our end and be with the contractors throughout. So to answer your question, yes, we'll certainly look at it. And yes, we'll continue to look at it. I am not hopeful that we're going to be able to take on a lot more than is already on our plan, simply because we're struggling a little bit to keep up with it as it is, to be completely frank about it.
Thank you. And I just ask because, I'm going through everything and, listening to the concerns. I'm really hesitant. I think I'm here with Superintendent Morgan of taking any more than we already have out of E&D. I was vehemently trying to find the E&D history in my drive, but I just can't remember what the document is called. But I think if we're going into next year with 1.5 left, especially after the last 2 years, we drained all of it. I'd rather do everything in our power to keep that 1.5 intact and, keep building it as time goes by. Because, last year was an opportunity that, whilst we did end up closing a school, that windfall of extra funds, that's not going to happen again unless something remarkable happens. So I'm thinking more long term in this, but obviously at the end of the day, we need to make a budget that, everyone can at least somewhat work with. But yeah, thank you.
You're muted.
Thank you. I'm more comfortable trying to work in something from FY26 first, and then going to the E&D after that. Like I said, coming into this meeting with your projections with the 1.6, I was comfortable, asking for you guys to look at going with a balance of around 1.3. So there's more available funding than I anticipated from FY26. So I think it could be that balance, right? That while there's never 100% known, if we know right now that the E&D is standing at 1.5, there's some potential to move some of the core purchases that might be needed into the FY26. I would like to have you consider that first and see what that brings us to. And then some of it realistically might have to come from E&D if it's staffing. Obviously, there's been deferred staffing. We can't pay for them in 1 year when they work the next. But the last thing that I would want you to do is cut out teachers. So really looking at some of those other areas. The other question I had was about the any other revolving accounts. Are there any funds in any revolving accounts that can be used for any of the needs from FY27?
So at this point, the admin team is going to be meeting early next week to look at all of these items, and we can certainly add revolving to that list. I don't think we can answer that now. I mean, we do have revolving funds, but we do have to be cautious where those really should be dedicated to one-time purchases as opposed to ongoing costs. I would recommend that we have the opportunity to review this and then make a proposal to the Finance Committee in advance of our next school committee meeting, because I do think we need to have another finance meeting to share with you what we were able to come up with, and then present to you a revised budget message and revised FY27 budget so that it can hopefully be supported by the Finance Committee to bring to the full school committee on March 10th.
I appreciate that. And I know, this time of the year, there's so much going on with the budget. Having what Nancy produced really helped me take a look at it to see what that comfort level is. And if there wasn't 1.5 in E&D, it probably wouldn't feel comfortable with this big of an ask. But I feel like leaving that, there's a cushion, and knowing that there still will be a little bit more of a cushion for any, drastic event. Obviously there's all this snow coming there. It's very easily could be something happen, right? We understand that. So I don't want to leave you in a difficult position. I want you to be able to start moving towards that optimum, even though it's not the full optimum, but what you envision to make it a better learning environment for the children, while still at the same time, superintendent, like you said, if one of our towns is suffering and we can help alleviate that, because it has that pendulum effect, right? Of affecting the townspeople and affecting what's happening with their operations. So if we can balance that out and are in a position to, I'd like to give it, its due diligence, which I know you do anyhow, but anything that we can do to shape that number down a little bit, I think would be well received communities. Get us through this as communities and not three separate towns. I think it will go a long way. So I appreciate all this effort. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments on this, Lisa?
So do you want us, or do you want to give back to us, Brad, two options? Like one that is at 500,000 and one that's at 600,000, or a range or something like that? What works best for you?
I think it's what works best for us. And I try to be descriptive and not prescriptive to the administration. That I think they're hearing the range that I'm personally comfortable with, but we're a committee. That coming into this meeting, I was comfortable with 1.3 carrying over. So if if the administration is a little bit more comfortable taking a little bit more off E&D, what that looks like, they're going to have the ability, super tight, but the ability to look at the February numbers before we meet next. That I don't want to say it has to be 600 or it has to be 500. I'm going to rely on their knowledge and abilities to come back to us. I think they're hearing my personal request. I want to know from all of you if you're comfortable with that. But I don't want to tell them it has to be this number. I'm going to rely on their professionalism to come to the best number that they can.
Yeah, I think getting as close. I think the goal should be obviously to get as close to that ask that Pepperell has as possible, because again, we want to support all of the towns in the district, and that includes doing our best to keep our budget asks within the constraints that they provide to us. With the understanding, of course, that it doesn't bind us completely, but it is, an important factor to consider is that, the towns do have limited budgets, and so I think coming back with a revised draft budget that gets closer to that point is obviously the ask. But if you can get to, if there's a reasonable way to get to that $600,000 reduction from the previous draft budget, if there's a reasonable way to get there and to not sacrifice too much in order to get there, then I think that should be the goal. But if it would require too much, if it would require sacrificing too much, then I don't think you have to force it there, but like try to get there, aim for that. And if you can get there, great.
Yeah. And I think that getting there within the funds that we have without cutting staff is possible. Mm-hmm. It's not the budget of years past where there was a lot of flexibility, but there's a little bit of flexibility. It's more where the money comes from versus asking the administration to actually cut things that they believe they need to operate. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have it come out of the budgets than see things taken out of the budget, if that makes sense, Lisa. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I just want to be cautious that we don't vote in a lower budget because we can't go up if things do come back from the state. Because there is talk that there will be a supplementary budget. I don't know where those lines will fall. I mean, there is talk that they may increase that per pupil. I just want to be cautious that we don't cut out too much. And that
I'm not asking the administration to cut out teachers. I think they can reduce the budget by using available funds, either FY 2026 or E&D, without cutting staff, without cutting their operations. And that's what I would rather see, feeling like you are, that there could be something coming in the future, that the budget is remaining the same, so to speak, but how it gets paid for is shifting. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
So if our
does,
budget
but-
is $1,000 and we're going to spend 100 in FY 2026 on one-time expenses that would have been paid in FY 27, do that. If keeping at their budget and taking a little bit more out of E&D is the way to go, like, let's hear that proposal. What I don't want to hear, and I'll be clear, like, I don't want them to come back and say we're cutting 3 teachers. It's not the ask, it's how we get to the number.
Because I don't want to hear the cutting of teachers or staff or anything either. I'd rather use the money in different spots.
Right.
Yeah.
Or use the money from different.
I think my personal opinion on this is to exercise best judgment. We have money, it exists, and I just want to see it used conservatively, but also factoring in the needs of students. I would rather not see teachers cut, but I want to remain cognizant of where health insurance is going to land, where we might actually land at the end of 26. I think my only guiding hand would be I'd not like to see it all come out of 26 if possible. I'd like to exit 26 with at least $1 million, so we can then have an alleged E&D in 27 coming in at 2.5, assuming we spend no more E&D. But my guiding hand is if we can at least leave $1 million left in 26, absent factors out of control, that's okay with me. And I'm not a budgeter, so whatever options work best for the administration.
What are your thoughts, Superintendent?
Again, I would just ask that we have the opportunity to meet next week and then have another meeting, I would say, towards the end of the week.
Okay.
And we will look at all avenues to see what we can do. I do want to be clear that we are not recommending any cuts to staff at this point, existing staff. Yep. It would be the addition of staff. And again, I still feel that there's some positive news to address our issues with regard to class size, based on a combination of the staff we're asking for and the budget, but also the audit that was done.
I appreciate that. I know that we had asked you to put together the sort of interim optimum budget of what that would look like. If retaining those positions at this point gets you closer to that, show us what that looked like. Maybe I don't want to put more work on you, but if as your discussions go, if you have different options that you want us to consider, we're happy to do that. Obviously, the operations side is left to you, but I'm hearing, from parents on this committee that the class size is an issue. So if you get relief there and can come in with the funding parameters, Keenan is very flexible on. I'm pretty flexible. I'm not sure where Lisa stands on it, but I what do you think, Lisa?
I'm flexible. It's just unknown. Being through so many of these processes before, and I don't want us to go to Pepperell for an override. I want to avoid that. As I think I made clear a few meetings ago when we met with the towns, that I know that people in Pepperell are not favorable of an override at this time. They just are not.
I don't think they ever are, but I think that the appetite for it is such that it would be unlikely to pass, which would mean, again, like if our ask is higher, that probably means that Pepperell would have to cut services or whatever elsewhere, and nobody would like that.
Yeah, I I think if we don't have a budget that at least gets us to 3% for payroll, then, I think, I don't, I should say I want to see a budget that's at least 3% for payroll. I don't, especially, considering they work with us, so hard. Not that any community doesn't deserve the utmost attention, but at the end of the day, they are getting just the way that the numbers fall. They're getting the short end of the stick, and I think we should be trying to work with them, as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
As I think we would work with any community that would be on the high number here. It wouldn't just be Pepperell. We'd work with Ashby or Townsend. We work with all the communities to make sure that they're all addressed appropriately, just depending on the budget cycle that we go through sometimes.
Yeah, it just so happens that this time around it's Pepperell that is at the highest.
All right. Well, I know we put some work on the table for you all in the administration, but I think you hear that we're flexible in the approach, that we don't want you to cut yourself short, but use what's available. We'll get through this. We're going to continue. I know personally, I'm continuing to support the Project 211 group, fix the funding formula, and we're exhausting all possibilities there too. So hopefully the future is better. But I appreciate what you're all doing to help get through this.
Yes. So do we want to put another meeting on the calendar for next week so we can have another meeting before the school committee meeting on the 10th?
When will
for next week first?
Was it 2 meetings we were looking for, or just 1? I don't know. It's misinterpreted when I was listening.
Oh wait, Robin, did we proactively put one on, or did we just talk about it and not put it on for right before the?
I don't see another.
We definitely didn't, because it's not on my calendar.
Yep, I just looked too. Should we look to the 5th or the 6th?
If we could do the 6th, that would be helpful. And then hopefully that afternoon, any changes to the budget narrative we can get out
Okay.
to the committee. I just wanted, I know it's come up a couple of times that the packet isn't where necessarily everyone wants it to be, but we would need some time. I think that myself and Gary, just looking, we're scheduled to do school visits. So we have to be cautious of that on Thursday. So just wanted you to be aware of that. So it just may take a little bit of time to get the budget message out. But the hope would be is that it would be minimal revisions at that point based on what we talk about and share at finance.
Okay. That's fine with me.
I don't know if anyone else has flexibility. Can we do later in the day on the 6th, or is that not possible? Or
what time?
Hold on, let me just look at my calendar here.
I don't mean to interrupt, but could we possibly consider later in the day, like a 1 o'clock meeting on the 5th, or a 2 o'clock meeting? We have a leadership meeting at 3:45, and I have a Keystone meeting in the morning.
Keystone meeting, is that on the 5th or is that on the 6th?
That's on the 5th, but I'm just worried that if we do it on the 6th, later in the day on the 6th, we won't have time to turn the budget message out to the committee, the updated version. So I'm wondering if we could possibly do a meeting at 1, 2, or even 2:30 on the 5th.
Fine for me. I don't know.
If all else fails, I can do the 8 a.m. on the 6th. It's just I usually work mornings, and with all the snow and whatnot, I've been kind of screwed out of some shifts here. I could do one on the 5th or one or two on the 5th. But if that causes complications, then we can do 8 a.m. on the 6th.
Lisa and Kim?
I'm good whatever time. I'm flexible with Keenan's schedule.
Let me just double check something on the 5th. I should be fine for the 5th at 1.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, Kim, can we put on, maybe not the next meeting, but we need to discuss the solar panels at Ashby to see how with those. It's not on the meeting today, so we can't discuss it, but in the future, finance needs to decide.
Robin, do you mind putting that on as a topic for the 5th? Ashby
Well,
solar
it doesn't
panels.
have to be on the 5th meeting. It could be on.
Well,
I can
at
add
least
it, and then if
put
you
it
don't
on
get
there.
to it, yeah.
And then we can always defer it.
Okay.
Even Lisa, to give you an opening to start to talk about it, even if it's not a
Okay.
full discussion.
And do you want the agenda to just have the FY27 budget and remove all of the sub listings that we have on there now, or?
Yeah, but keep the 26 budget on there, please.
Okay, will do.
It may need to remain just in case we're recommending prepayment on anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, Robin, could you include like the E&D packet that Keenan was looking for? That I know we've had those numbers out before.
E&D history,
Yeah.
I will.
And whatever other history you think that we've used in the past that's helpful.
Yeah, we'll probably need the revolving funds.
Kevin and Nancy, can you share that with me?
Yeah, we can share that. We can update it as well.
As I said, the update was on my list to do today. So
Yep. Great.
Yeah.
So any types of those documents that you guys think that would be helpful to us, that would be great.
Actually, I think there's a file called E&D analysis. I think that might be the one that you were talking about, Keenan.
There's also a slide too in the public hearing presentation, which is in the budget directory.
Yeah, I was looking.
That's a little harder to find.
Yeah, the Google search is just not doing me good things here. I'm looking up E&D, excess and deficiency. I just couldn't find it for the life of me. But thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I think for March 10th, a lot of that key information, I think that might be prudent to have like printed out in physical, packets or notes, or I don't know how you're planning on doing it, Robin, but I think some of that might want to be printed out and accessible because someone's going to ask for it at some point.
Yeah, generally we do things electronically, just because historically, anytime I've printed things, they
Change
either
that.
they do change, yes, but people just don't look at them, and then it's wasteful. So I'll review it and with Lisa and Brad and see what makes sense, because it does take a lot of time and it's expensive to do. But obviously, we want to have you prepared for the meeting. So
of course,
I mean, perhaps we can have one copy that we can pass around if people want to look at the physical copy at the time, or something like that. Keenan,
yeah,
we'll work it out.
or a couple. Yep. No problem.
All right. And no one's joined us for the second public comment. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
We'll
moved.
make a motion to adjourn. Oh,
All right.
I'll take the second then. Keenan can have.
Keenan and Lisa. Keenan made the motion. Lisa seconded. So roll call vote. Keenan Francois.
Yes.
Lisa Martin.
Yes.
Mike Labossiere.
Yes.
And I'm Kim Craven, and I am a yes as well. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the more snow.
Yes.
See you
More
soon.
snow.
Right.
Yay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.